Welcome to episode 3 of the Burn Music Show. What do John Lennon, being a thrash pioneer, and Dr. Dre all have in common? Well, my next guest, and he's our first ever phone interview into the show. Bear with our phone connection as we dive into nearly 5 decades of discussion in this no-holds-barred conversation that ends with us making a collaborative playlist that can be shared on Spotify. This is the Burn Music Show, and I'm your host, Dimitri. Let's go. Don Kay of Kerrang! Magazine once referred to them as too damn fast, one of the most explosive and dynamic thrash bands to ever come out of Chicago. I'm proud to have with me today Kyriakos, aka Charlie Tsioulis, singer from the legendary band Aftermath. Kyriakos, welcome. Thanks for being a part of the Burn Show.
Thanks for having us. It's cool do a podcast at its beginning or at its infancy.
Yeah, I appreciate that for rolling the dice on us, and we're just having fun at this point.
Yeah, just enjoy the moment and have fun, a good conversation. And then
and man, you guys have quite the story to tell. I mean, Aftermath you guys could have your own Netflix series.
Yeah. Well, because it's an underground band with a insane story, and it's usually like it could be a movie, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I'm sure other people say, but when you really hear it and it's told well and you're in the movie, there's so many like little details and insane stuff that it takes a lot of energy to tell this story,
Absolutely. I was actually a little taken back. So last week I was on Twitter and I saw a retweet from the official John Lennon Twitter account, and they retweeted Aftermath's new video for your amazing cover of Lennon's iconic Give Peace a Chance song. And I was like, this was released weeks ago, and I was impressed by seeing a retweet from John Lennon. I could only imagine how blown away you must have been.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, I would have been really blown away if John Lennon was alive, you know what I mean? It was cool, It was cool. And it was the official page, which means it's
I'm sure his family runs.
Yeah, it's connected in the Lennon family. So
yeah,
Lennon's just I totally respect him. I wish he was alive to see what's going on nowadays.
Yeah, imagine if we could actually hear from John Lennon in 2020 to get his perspective on everything from like geopolitical topics to music.
I just want to see what he'd be like right now. If he'd be like angry, or like if he'd be like, a lot of the 60s people just don't even care. I mean, they don't protest, or they just like got old and tired.
Yeah. I think he'd be a little bit more out of the box thinking, but that's just me. What inspired you guys though to cover that song?
Well, because we were thinking about our drummer wanted us to do a cover, and then somehow that idea came from him. Cover. Because we've never done one. We only did one cover, but we never recorded. It was Wipeout, the instrumental. Wipeout. We used to do that live back in '85.
Wow.
And it was a really good thing for the pit, for slam dancing and moshing.
Yeah.
And then we, since our drummer mentioned it, the thing that he suggested, we weren't, I didn't like it or whatever, and then I think Pete, the manager,
okay,
came up somehow. Like, I was thinking one night, if this would fit, somehow it just popped up in my radar. It must have popped up somewhere. I listened, I Give Peace a Chance, and then my brother said at the same time the next day, mentioned that song, and it was already, I was thinking it, so it felt like it was meant to be,
Yeah, it's destiny.
That's how it happened, right?
Yeah,
because he's next to me. I'm confirming the story. I'm getting high here right now, so I might forget some stuff. But it was like those, what do they call it? Serendipity? No, is it?
Yeah, it was serendipitous.
Yeah, it was like
there you go,
meant to be. But the idea was sparked from Ray, the drummer. We got to give him credit, but he didn't give us the right song. And also it fits with the album, because the album, the 2019, we released a concept album called There Is Something Wrong, which was our first album since we reunited, because we reunited 2015. And this album is really a follow-up to our first album, Eyes of Tomorrow. But this album is a concept album about the world turning into what it is becoming now. It's all about like false flags, the Federal Reserve being a Ponzi scheme.
Well, speaking about that, I wanted to get back to John Lennon real quick, because So his son, Sean Ono Lennon, on Twitter last week, he called out journalists and basically our media for their coverage of coronavirus. He tweeted, "The official media have lost their legitimacy." And this was in reference to journalists who are taking everything the CCP is saying and taking that as truth and basically kowtowing to propaganda. When I listened to your album, Something Is Wrong, which I love, by the way, and we'll get into that, you sort of reference similar thoughts on, like you mentioned, false flag flying and gaslight, about the media, and in a sense, how we shouldn't allow for propaganda to control us. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on what, like, Sean Ono Lennon said and your opinions on the topic.
Well, Sean was saying that he doesn't think it is what they're saying it is, right? Is that what he, because I didn't hear he said anything.
Yeah, he was basically saying, like, it's amazing how our media just will take everything the CCP is saying as truth, and not without questioning it,
And CCP,
the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and well, anyways, yeah. What I think, man, the album is, I think the people are being run like the thing we see, anything that's a big media event, like from 9/11 to the Vietnam War to everything that's a major event is just a theater. It's just it's not really, none of this stuff is real. I mean, it's real, but it's not for the reason. It just doesn't happen naturally. Like Vietnam, the war didn't happen because Vietnam and the Americans hated each other. It was a planned operation. You know what I mean? And all you got to know is, everybody knows politicians lie. It's a common fact, right? That's one thing they describe them as, liars. And the lies don't end. And first of all, on one song called Pseudocide, we actually mentioned, 33 conspiracies at the time they came out. They were, you told people MK Ultra, the public will go, the CIA isn't doing mind games or experimenting on citizens' minds. No way. But now it's known because it's out. Now it's not known as a conspiracy. Or, the thing they did, the speech with Naria, the babies in incubators.
Yeah.
There was like a big sad thing. She came on just like the girl with right now with what's the girl's name? Greta. Just like Greta. The little girl comes out. But now we know that girl was the daughter of the guy in charge, that there was a puppet regime up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I actually show 33 examples of that. And I end that by going, what makes you think they stopped? They stopped? And the CIA, the FBI, the alphabet agencies, they are the enemy of the people. And the people just don't know that, they got to know who the enemy is. So that's what the album is. The album's awakened, and it has solutions. Like, it doesn't have like revolution, let's go on the street and start militia groups. You can't do none of that, because it doesn't matter how big of the group is, they can still get you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you reference a lot of that.
You can't fight them with weapons. The only way you can do it is you knowing that they're doing it. Like catching a thief stealing your mail every day.
Right.
And he wanted a free magazine, and he's been doing it for 30 years, and he always got the free paper. And then when he finally gets exposed, he's going to stop doing it. It's the same thing. Like, if everybody knew they were onto it, they couldn't get away with it.
Right.
It's almost like selling your soul at the crossroads. It's like, or the devil wants you to want to join him. He doesn't want to make you join him,
Well, you reference a lot of that in your album. Now, your album is great. So it's called Something Is Wrong. It's by Aftermath. Now, it's your first album in 25 years. So you guys were basically on hiatus. And we'll talk about the 90s in a little bit. But how did you get to the point that you decided and wanted to return and make a full-fledged album?
Because when we got back, we thought we were just going to do a couple shows and have fun. I was satisfied with a rehearsal, actually, not even a show. Because I kind of wanted, because Ray and Steve are such amazing players, especially together. Just watching them play again and being in the same room and playing the old songs was good enough. And then we do that, it sounds like we just stopped last week. And Ray and Steve didn't go on to play with other bands. I played in another band, but Ray and Steve, after Aftermath broke up, they didn't play with them, so they were fresh and ready to go. Like, they weren't influenced by they don't sound like everybody else. They still kept the uniqueness of the bands from the 80s, where everybody sounded different. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, you're right. The new songs are great.
Because right now when you listen to bands, everybody, like the whole heavy metal genre and everything, basically you can't tell who's who apart. Like, if you took out especially vocals, maybe you can tell, but if you took out even vocals, it sounds like one big blur. You
Right.
know, there's no passion. It doesn't feel real. You know what I mean? I can't even describe how bad music is because it doesn't feel real to me. You know, it feels like it's just fake. I can't say anything more than just sounds fake. And they sound so real to me that I just needed to hear it for my own. Man, when this album was done, before it came out, I just wanted to keep it for myself. I don't care if anybody else hears it. Just
Well, Steve's tone on guitar
for me because I wasn't getting nothing I was getting in the past. Like I wasn't getting an album that I wanted to hear straight through. You know.
Well, Steve's tone on guitar is killer, and Ray on drums. Your new bassist George absolutely crushes it. And I have to tell you, so it starts off from the beginning. So False Flag Flying, there's this little breakdown at like the 2.5 minute mark. So it's about 20 seconds before the guitar solo comes in. You guys do like this little Sabbath-esque breakdown. It's like dana, dana, and it just builds up and it explodes right before the guitar solo. And I have to tell you, it's one of the most refreshing 30 to 45 seconds in thrash that I've heard in a while.
Yeah, no, I feel the same thing. Yeah, I know the part. Yeah, and the solo even Steve does is
it's amazing.
Like, his solos are memorable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like, the tone is great.
Steve is one of those guys. When I met him in high school, he had a reputation. Like before I met him, because even though he's like as old as me, he seemed like older. You know, and then they go, this guy Steve, man, he's an amazing guitar player. He could do. I forgot what Yes song, but everybody would go, man, you could play the whole. The name was a famous Yes song too, a real long one. That if you could play that as a guitar player back in the '80s, it was like you're like amazing, you know. And then Ray had the same reputation in his school, you know, grammar school. When my brother and everybody that introduced me to Ray, he was known in the area as an amazing drummer, you know. And then Steve actually gave guitar lessons at this place called Tunes and Taps, and I ended up taking some lessons from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to quit because I thought, man, this guy's younger, you know, but he was just like, I told you, I viewed him as, he was serious. He played every Sunday at a church event or whatever, because he played acoustic guitar. And then he also, at the same time, he had a teaching job. And he was in a band called Weekend that played every weekend. They were booked for years as a wedding band. And they had a repertoire of over 300 songs of current hits on the radio.
Wow.
And back then, playing those hits on the radio, Police songs, Prince songs, that was the hard music to play. It wasn't like fake music. It was real by real musicians, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And they could play that. If a big hit came out, they learned it that week, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ray, actually, the drummer, even joined that band towards the tail end and did like a year, but Ray didn't like the wedding part, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how good they are, you know? And
no, it comes across that way. You can hear it. And you guys have a lot of bangers on this album. Diathanasia, you guys have a music video to that, and it might be one of my favorites on it.
Yeah, which is funny because that actually, the whole album does, but that song specifically describes what's going on right now. If I read the lyrics, I would just be describing what's going on, and that's the only one that we haven't made out of 5 videos as a lyric video. So the one that's most descriptive of the times is the one without the lyrics in it. So maybe we're gonna make another video with the lyrics scrawling underneath the video, you know, kind of like a special report, you know.
Yeah, that'll be great. Or maybe post Corona, we'll get you guys in the studio and we'll do a live version of it.
Yeah, that'd be cool, because I mean that song, I want the lyrics to be known, you know what I mean? Because it's a performance video, and it doesn't seem like we're saying what we're saying. The reason the verses are like you know, the fast singing, you know, Big Pharma, what can you do? Nation's hurting, calling for you. Those. They're supposed to be like a guy giving you urgent information. It's almost like if part of the concept, if I was making it in the way it's in my head, I'm running out of time, and I'm telling you maybe on a telephone. That's why I kind of wanted a telephone effect that I'm telling you, hey man, this is what's going on in the world, because the time's running out. You got to fucking do something, you know?
Yeah. Well, you got Smash Reset Control, or as you say, Smash Reset Control. And it sounds like something that could be on your 80s demo, Killing the Future. For the people who don't know. Yeah, for the people who don't know, that demo is masterful. It's like the earliest of crossover thrash, like as good as it can be.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good that you said that, because that's what it totally is. That's the one. Well, we haven't said it, but I mean, if I said Smash Reset Control could have been definitely on Killing the Future as the 6th song or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And that was 33 years ago, or roughly.
Well, 85, 86. Well, it was written 85, 86, 87 is when we recorded, like in June, you know?
Yeah. By the way, everybody, Killing the Future is available everywhere music can be purchased. You could also stream it. Check it out. But Kiriako, do me a favor. So that was 33 years ago, roughly. Take us back then to 1980s in Chicago. What was the scene like?
Wait, I answered it, but I just want you to know on the album, if you notice, like a lot of the titles, I mean, they repeat throughout the interludes, and the interludes give as much info as the lyrics of the song. So all the speeches in there, like it's all like part of the whole thing. So you got to really listen, and then when you listen to the whole thing, you'll realize what I mean by it, more than me just describing it. But in the '80s was the scene
that was for Smash Reset Control, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because even before Smash Reset Control starts, right before it's going Smash Reset Control, Smash Reset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like little voices thing. So it's all sung. The title, There Is Something Wrong, is repeated a lot on throughout. Even so, it's repeating to sink in, just like when they want to like sink in a propaganda thing. They keep
it's like subliminal,
different ways, like sung different way. Like I go, there is something wrong, or there is something wrong. There is, you know what I mean? So it's the same meaning done different ways. So
it's subliminal, like you're putting messages on the record. I gotta play it backwards.
Well, yeah, the beginning is my dad. My dad's whistling through the record.
That's awesome.
The whistling's like a nonchalant. It represents like the regular human where they're just like not worried, not paying attention to what's going on. They're distracted. You know what I mean? My niece is the one that's doing all the, in the beginning, and most of all the interludes and the whole intro, which we call "Can You Feel It?" That's all done on my phone, on my driving around on my phone.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I didn't know it presented a big dilemma in my head because I had no idea. I was making so much and they were sounding so good, and I decided I wanted to put it part of the album. I thought I was going to have to redo it in the studio, and I go, how am I going to redo this stuff in the studio? I didn't know that Chuck, the engineer, goes, we'll just take it like that. He didn't say that in the beginning for the longest time. We couldn't figure it out with him either. And then one day he goes, we'll just put it on straight from there, and it sounds just like it was recorded in the studio,
Yeah.
It stressed me out for a long time. But anyways, you want me to the 80s part of the scene was amazing because we grew up as music fan, heavy metal fans, and then I was a fanatic like 1980, especially. What a year was that, man? Look at it, one classic metal album after the other. But 1980, Van Halen, I loved Kiss, and Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. But then around like mid 80s, like around 84, I started looking like Ozzy Osbourne was looking like, the older guys were trying to be glam, and the glam bands I couldn't stand. I wasn't into that shit at all. And then I thought metal started like really getting bad, like almost embarrassing. So then out of nowhere, for some reason in late 84, 85, because it started in 84, was going to Aragon and see Venom Slayer and Exodus, or 84 is when I started like thinking, hey man, there's an underground. I don't even know. Maybe it was the Venom record of Rolling Stone. I looked at it and I go, what the hell? An independent label? Who are these guys? It was the most. I mean, I didn't realize now, hearing interviews from every band in the world, when they seen that album, they got the chills,
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys formed a little bit after that. So you formed in 85, right?
Yeah. Well, Kill 'Em All was out. And then I remember seeing Kill 'Em All and going, what is this? And some older guy that was there, he goes, Kill 'Em All. And I didn't know what he meant. I thought he meant, I wanted more info. He didn't know. He was just like they used to call him hippie, this guy, and he was into Sabbath. He had long hair, but I noticed that nobody really knew about this stuff. So it's not on the label, or whatever. And then next thing you know, somehow we formed the band. It's just amazing to me now, the story, because it was a really rebellion against everything corporate and heavy metal music. I was reading Circus magazine in '84 and for 6 years before I had a subscription, and then I stopped all that, and all I wanted to read is like Kick-Ass Monthly or Megaforce. And then
you guys were in Megaforce too.
Yeah, well, but those were all like, I'm talking even when by the time early on when it was still a zine,
Metal Forces.
Right. Metal Forces.
Yeah.
Bernard Dole's magazine, and then Kick-Ass Monthly, Sledgehammer Press were all the early fanzines, And then,
well, do me a favor. What was tape trading? Can you walk us through what tape trading was?
Well, that's what I'll explain right here,
and how that helped bands like you get the word out.
Well, see, the thing is, man, once we boycotted the mainstream magazines like Rip and Circus and Cream,
Hit Parader,
and Hit Parader, especially that. And then it was the labels. I didn't want to buy nothing from major labels. It had to be like I thought that like people that listen to Judas Priest and Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath. I thought they were like out of date then. You know, I go, what are these guys listening to? It's like cool because everything became underground, man. And we didn't realize at the time it was a real rebellion against a big corporate machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like shows done by Last Rites here instead of Jam Productions. You know what I mean? And then we formed a band, and then I started looking at the magazines, the zines I like, but there was always like other fans writing, hey, I like Venom, Slayer, Exodus, Penbanger in England. So you've seen those that people were writing letters. That's the only way to communicate. And then all of a sudden, you knew demos were starting to get out, like the first Metallica demo, you know, they got around. And then, so we did the same thing. We sent it to, like, let's say, the zines, the actual editors, the Dres, the zines, and they wrote about it. And then all of a sudden from that, kids started writing about it. And like Metal Forces, when we sent it to them, tons of kids started writing about it then, writing back for, you know, we sell demos for $5. And the demos would go on kids that were really into it in the tape trading list. So they'd mail around their lists. So it'd be a list like from A to Z. It'd be like Aftermath, and, you know, Anacrusis and whatever, Ada, you know, whatever bands. And they'd put the demos on there. Those lists would go around worldwide. And that was that's what tape trading was, you know, through those lists.
Yeah, that's amazing. So kids nowadays have no idea how hard it was to find new music, right?
But in a way, man, if I feel like it was hard if you didn't know. But I mean, I just like I researched the world for the concept album. I researched it. I mean, just not research it because it was fun. I did it because I loved it. But I knew where to send. You know what I mean? I knew if you sent metal, right. You know. So it wasn't hard because it spread pretty quick. The only thing was slow, probably the post office, man, getting there. You know what I mean? The actual transportation. But once it seemed like it spread fast, because I remember we went to Greece in the summertime and we had our demo here, and people were talking about it when we on a flight when we getting over there. You know what I mean? It was like a week since it was out, or that week, and they were already. Yeah, they knew about it. You know, like the real ones that really knew about the underground. They knew. You know, they knew everything about bands in Chicago. More than metal fans in Chicago knew about their local scene, man.
Yeah, it worked. Well, you know, and by the late '80s, you guys started getting a decent following. And at what point, I know you guys ended up making a slight sound shift and you pulled away from like crossover thrash into a more prog and technical sound.
Well, that was
ahead of the time, by the way. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was already when we were mixing Killing the Future in '87. We got a second guitar player because he was there in the studio while we were mixing the demo, and John Lavetti's his name. And I remember like he was sitting there with us going, because I didn't realize how extreme Killing the Future was at that time. I remember because he was a great Black Sabbath influenced guitar player. You know, he wasn't into the thrash like we were. And then he goes, man, he told me years later, when I first came into the studio, I heard Killing the Future. He goes, I never heard anything like that in my life. And he didn't show it then, you know, everybody's a kid, you don't want to.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what I wanted, the reason we brought him in. Yeah, no.
Hello?
Yeah,
okay, there we go. I lost you a little bit. So the reason you brought him in, I lost you a little bit.
Right away, I got bored of wanting to be the fastest band in the world and mixing hardcore punk and metal. Because in the beginning, we had a choice: death metal or create something different, right? Even though death metal was brand new, you know what I'm saying? Is I didn't want to go because I remember making a choice. Because I kind of thought about Aftermath could have been a death metal band, you know what I'm saying? But we chose like a path. And it wasn't even crossover. Like it was thrashcore because we were naming it ourselves. Because I looked at our old mail, we we're going Chicago thrashcore because it wasn't named because cores became a big thing now, you know, like.
Yes, sorry, I got a little bad connection.
Then I go, man, wouldn't it be cool to see if we could mix Pink Floyd? I go Pink Floyd with thrash, and that's what we try to do, man. Starting in '87, so we were technically one of the first bands mixing that, because then the whole technical progressive thrash genre came out. And the only reason I would say that now is all you got to see is when they came out. Right. So you can't now. You could go and see the dates yourself. I wouldn't be saying that people couldn't prove it easily. You know what I mean? And that became a whole thing, and that's how we ended the band. We didn't go past that. Like we stayed with those, you know, we from the beginning, early, fast, super fast crossover days to the second chapter, which was technical, progressive, experimental, dark thrash, you know, and then
right. And you guys ended up signing. So your debut album was you end up signing a record deal, right? And that was I never heard. So it was Big Chief Records, and they had Warner Brothers
Yeah, but
distribution,
they
I
went bankrupt
believe.
while we were recording. They paid half the money to go in the studio, and then while we were in the studio, they actually went bankrupt. So it took us 4 years to get our master tapes back, because when we were done recording, obviously they were gone. They weren't there to pay the rest of the studio. They put the half deposit down, you know.
So you had to wait 4 years to release that album.
Young, we weren't working men, you know what I mean? And then it was collecting money. We were,
sure.
Phil, the engineer, would call up. Hey, it was just a big hassle. 4 years of like, the middleman was every time. I think Steve was collecting the money for a while, dealing with the studio, and then for a couple of years he had enough, and then he had John Levetti do it, and he did it for a little while. I never did it though, where the studio called me and I'd go to the guys at practice. Hey, we need you guys. Could you put in $20 for the album? And then so it went bankrupt, so it never came out on there. And then it's been re-released 6 times already now, like even through a Greek label in 98. This Black Lotus label, 98, released it. Thermometer Sound Surface was a big Chicago label that was an indie thing with Feedback Distribution, released it in 94, or a year after we released it, So
I think you guys released it in 94, and the music scene changed drastically.
They had the Drovers, Michael Badio. They had a bunch of stuff they released, but they another thing, they went bankrupt because they put way too much money in it. They had a huge warehouse where they looked real professional and had a great office building, but then they were gone too. So another bankruptcy, and then we didn't tour with it. And it came out in 94 when thrash metal was dead. I mean, no thrash band was. They were the ones that were around were going different directions. Look at Megadeth and during those years and all those bands. Risk.
The scene changed drastically. Yeah, you're right.
All the bands that were around then that stuck around, like even Creator, Destruction, all of them made albums that were so unthrashed they're embarrassing to them now. And so we just disappeared. And then we ended up signing a record deal with Interscope, and the third chapter of Aftermath is Mother God Movie Star, and that's like a album that was not even called Aftermath because it was so experimental. It confused everybody because it started out as a band, and throughout the album it got more and more electronic, and at the end it ended up being just a DJ. The band started disappearing slowly throughout the album.
Yeah, that's cool. So that was called
that's on Interscope Records.
Mother God Movie Star. Nice. Okay, very cool. Yeah, so you guys have, that's an interesting progression. Now, at one point, so let's fast forward at this point. I think now we're going to rewind a little bit. So let's say like 1995, 1996-ish, you guys got a call from Dr. Dre's lawyers. Yes, the Dr. Dre. But you didn't know at the time that he was the client behind the call, right?
I got a call from this guy named Pete Paterno. And he's Metallica's lawyer, but I knew that he was Metallica's lawyer. So when he called me, he said his name, but he didn't think anybody would know his name. He thought we were probably some dumb metal dude. I don't know. He's a lawyer. They're not famous. You know what I mean? Unless you read the little credits and album credits. And if you listen to any music fanatics interviews, and they love music like a fan. They all loved reading the thank list and who produced it, who's the lawyer, who's the booking agent. You know what I mean? So I knew that stuff. So right when he said that, because they called up trying to lie to me, because
that's great.
Waiting. I remember I was talking to my girlfriend on the other line, and I had to go. So they called up, and they were in a conference room. They let the name problem last till the last second, and then it came to like almost everything was done, and then they go, "What's up with the name? We want somebody has the trademark, some rock kids or whatever they call us in Chicago." So they called me up and tried to get the name for $5,000, but right away they told me that they go, "It's not that you have any power or rights. We just want to pay you because we don't want to waste any time, man, because we'll win anyways. But we'll give you $5,000 just so we could just use the name, And then
but you guys had
it meant nothing to them, but then he made the mistake going, "My name's Pete Paterno," and I go, "Oh, aren't you Metallica's lawyer?" And then I took him off some crazy. I went off the topic, and then I let my brother deal with it from then on. I refused to talk to him after that. But it was like I kind of wasted their time where I started talking about krautrock and what kind of music I'm listening to at the time. And literally, I know they were probably wanting to like go through the phone and like, "What the fuck you doing, kid?" Because it was a conference room. They were probably waiting, because I was on a speaker. because I could, it was a conference. So
Sure.
it was hilarious. I probably talked to him 15 minutes about krautrock. But I was really into it at the time, and it was on my mind, so I didn't want to talk about the aftermath being the moniker being used by Dr. Dre. I mean, somebody else for $5,000. You know what I mean? What's the point of getting it?
Yeah.
You changed the thing.
So, but they end up suing you, or did you guys sue them?
No, we sued them.
Did they end up suing you, or did you guys sue them?
We got some lawyers that didn't know what they were doing, so we ended up we were trying to get a preliminary injunction to stop the release of. In November, they had a compilation album coming out called "Been There, Done That," and we went to court. Man, it lasted 3 days, and it's you can look it up. Anybody, Trolls versus Interscope, and it's a case that maybe they studied at law school one time because
all the time. It's a famous case.
It's a case for trademarks or whatever.
Reverse confusion.
For because we had a trademark. That's amazing. So
it's like it made no sense to why even get a trademark if it was just crazy, and it was a 3-day court case, and at the end, we didn't lose. The judge, I really annoyed the judge, because I was angry about it,
Yeah.
And then, and plus, he was known for bribery before, anyways. And I heard there were 2 opinions written by somehow we found out it could have been gone for me or against me, But basically, they were saying they'd lose $5 million if we stopped them, if they had to redo it. So the judge let it go for us to go to trial.
Yeah.
To have to continue on to regular court, but we couldn't do it because the money, we couldn't pay for that, to go to court trial,
Yeah, it's tough to compete against the big boys that I'm sure Dre has.
Where Paterno had to come
here
in Chicago for 3 days, and they played games too. One day they didn't want to show up to court. They said they had a car accident, and then we found out they lied by us investigating it.
Yeah. Well, have you ever spoke to Dr. Dre?
Through that thing, like he would give us messages like, tell the Rock Boys, why do they care about the name?
I'll give any name they want.
Yeah, or what? And through Jimmy Iovine, Jimmy Iovine, the bigwig. I mean, because it's all Jimmy Iovine, you know what I mean?
Well, it's a great story. That was sort of like, so after that issue with Dre, that was kind of like the end of Aftermath as we know it, right? So for like the next 20 years, you guys were a little bit of a break. And then you came back with a vengeance. What's next for you guys? So you mentioned the new song. Are you releasing more new materials or a tour maybe?
Yeah. And tour only if it made sense. Like it's so weird because Aftermath got to the point of even being known at all without really ever going. Mother God Movie Star did one U.S. tour, when we were Mother God Movie Star, but with Jenna Torturers, this industrial band. But Aftermath never did. We did shows like we did Detroit, whatever, but we never went on a world tour or anything like that, like every other band did. So it's pretty cool that it actually got to a point of being known where it wasn't like a typical way of doing it. Like it really is kind of unique.
Yeah, you are for sure. And what do you miss the most about recording or just the music scene in general from the 80s that you wish you could kind of bring back today?
Like underground thrash metal. That was so exciting. Think about it. I was in a band when I was like, let's say in my late teens or 18, 19, 20 years old. A million people have done that, right? What if I did it before, like 5 years before? I would have just wanted to be, Judas Priest, AC/DC, whatever, because there was no underground. Metal was metal, it was like the big bands, right? So it was just exciting that nobody's done it before us. So even like when I was 18 years old in a band, I could have looked at a 22-year-old. They wouldn't even know that we're still beyond something they're thinking. You know what I mean? It was just great time to do it. That's what's real special. Like a million bands have formed throughout. Very few have formed in the beginning, the first 1 year or year and a half of a brand new genre. And the genre kept going.
Well, speaking of a 22-year-old, what one piece of advice would you give for the next generation of thrash musicians that are out there trying to make it?
All the ones that came out knew they're kind of copying even song titles as names of their bands, of thrash bands, dressing like them, you know what I mean? Like they're in the 80s. Thrash was great because just like when heavy metal started, like with the original Black Sabbath, especially on the first couple albums, look how they looked on stage. They were dressed like thrash bands, jeans and t-shirts, long hair, but messy looking. They look scummy, they didn't look pretty. And They were singing about, look what Geezer Bullitt was writing about: nuclear war, religious topics, political issues, social issues. It was like dark and all about powerful music, amazing music. Lyrics there weren't fantasy, really, when you would think about it. They weren't. And heavy metal's thought of as fantasy, right? A lot of the lyrics.
Yeah.
And that's how thrash metal was. So I think they should just be like they are now, dressed exactly like their kids, but just make the music angry, and angry to be thrash metal. It needs to have angry vocals. It can't have like somebody singing like Ronnie James Dio and being in a thrash metal band. Because a lot of young kids confuse just because it's fast. It needs to have everything. You can't be a death metal band if you have the guy sings like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I love that. If you're gonna make a band, be mad. That's great.
Like
Hey, Kiriako, you know what I thought would be fun if we can kind of make a collaborative Spotify playlist. So I have this buddy, and he, it was day one of the quarantine, and he was texting us. It was like a big group text with friends. He was texting us like songs for the apocalypse, a different song every day. So I thought it'd be fun, considering, I have you as a guest. If we can do like a thrash-inspired soundtrack to the apocalypse, we'll each pick 10 songs, and we'll make it collaborative so we can share it, and people listening can make their own list or add to it. You down for that?
Right. That sounds cool. Let's let it roll.
Awesome. I'll do the first one. So it's going to be Aftermath, Diathanasia, off your new album, There Is Something Wrong.
And I go with I Shot Reagan by ST, Suicidal Tendencies.
Nice.
Now known as
Classic.
I Shot the Devil.
I shot the classic. Awesome. I'm going to do Megadeth, first song off their first album, Last Rites / Love to Death. I think that song sets the mood.
Great album.
Yeah.
Venom, 1,000 Days in Sodom from Welcome to Hell.
Nice. The OGs. Okay. So Metallica, I warped every one of their 80s albums as a kid. So I'm going to have to pick, considering the theme, I'm going to do Creeping Death by Metallica.
And I pick Slayer, Hell Awaits.
Nice. All right. So I'll do Anthrax again. First song, first album, Death Rider.
And I go with Exodus, one of the first thrash bands ever created, Bonded by Blood, the title track with the go with the title track, right? Even right,
with the twins on there.
Pick something else on that, but like let's just go with that Piranha. I thought Piranha. Just go with Bonded by Blood. Piranha.
Yeah, I my next song is an Exodus song as well, and for me, my story is I remember if it was RPM 103.1 in Chicago, the rock station, or if it was, the metal station, or if it was WVVX with Scott Loftus. But one of those stations, they played The Toxic Waltz by Exodus when I was a kid, late night, and I was like, wow, what is this?
WVVX.
Fits perfectly. Yes, VVX, yeah.
Bonskis and Brewskis.
Yeah.
And then Sodom.
Nice.
Outbreak of Evil.
All right. And then I'll go Slayer as well. And I'm going to do, again, first song, first album, Evil Has No Boundaries. That howl in the intro. Wow.
Destruction, Infernal Overkill EP. I think Invisible Force is the title.
Yeah, I have to check that out. All right.
Destruction was like there at the beginning too, especially the look they created.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to do the next song, one of my favorites, and they were founded in Chicago. A little bit more industrial, but definitely thrash nonetheless. Ministry with Breathe.
All right. Well, since Al Jurgensen's kind of a crazy guy that looks wild, I'll go with Tom Warrior, Celtic Frost, Circle of Tyrants. Tom G. Warrior.
All right. And then number 8, I'm going to go with the crossover thrash gods that you mentioned earlier from Venice Beach, California, Suicidal Tendencies with Disco's Out, Murders In.
All right. And then some German thrash with Creator, Pleasure to Kill.
Creator, Pleasure to Kill. All right. Now I'm going to go new era thrash. So post Millennium here. These guys are a lot of fun. Municipal Waste. And the first track off their last EP, which is Wave of Death.
Well, I'll have to go with Metallica for some reason with Damage Incorporated, because that's one of their best songs, and that's a real thrash song. That one and Trapped Under Ice or whatever, Metal Militia, but Damage Incorporated.
Yeah, awesome. And then I'm going to pick a band that you guys played with last year, another new post-millennial band, Warbringer, and I'm going to do the first song off their 2017 album, which is Silhouette.
Then I got Montreal's Voivod with Tribal Convictions from Dimension Hatros.
Voivod, yes, classic. All right, I do have to throw. I'm going to go 11 here. I have to throw Maiden in. This is not your typical thrash type of song, but it's definitely post-apocalyptic, and I love the album. I love this song. I love the band. Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time. Yeah, was Wasted Years on there?
Yeah.
That's a great song.
It's kind of their pivot. It's not full progressive yet. I think their next album, Seventh Son, was a little bit more. It's an in-between album.
Age group, your age group that got into it loved Seventh Son. It was Seventh Son, right?
Yeah, that was 89-ish. This is 87.
Because by then, what year was it again?
Somewhere in Time, 87, 88, around there.
Yeah, 87. That's what I told you earlier I was doing at that time. Ignoring the Maiden were the enemy then. Just Priest. They were bloated old men. It's just weird. That's what the thrash was about. Just how the Sex Pistols thought of Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you had when you're there, you'd understand that at that time, that's how you thought of it. That even Iron Maiden, they weren't thought of like they were now again. You know what I mean? They thought, fuck Maiden, man, fuck Priest, because it was all new thing. We explained that earlier.
Yeah. Well, Kiriako, I can't thank you enough. By the way, everybody, this playlist is on Spotify. Burn Music Show. You'll find it. We'll make it the Aftermath soundtrack to the apocalypse. It's collaborative. Add whatever songs you want to it. We left a ton of great music off of it, so it's yours. Share it.
Kick ass.
And I can't thank you enough for being on my podcast. It really means a lot. And
read
please,
the lyrics to Dythanasia. I'm leaving a message. Yeah, to read the lyrics besides just listening. I mean, it explains a lot.
I will. And please, you have anything you want to promote here?
No.
Where can they find your music?
The stuff is before,
Yeah. So aftermathchicago.com is the website. We can find your stuff on Spotify and anywhere music can be streamed.
Yeah.
And I'll be posting some fun Aftermath stuff as well.
Cool.
On the Burn Music Show.
All right, bro.
Well, thanks again, and we'll have to meet up one of these days at one of these shows.
Definitely, and then best of luck, and I look forward to hearing the interview, man.
Thank you so much, and stay safe post Corona.
You too,
or during
man.
Corona,
I
should say.
too.
All right, thank you. Take care.